All right, we're going to keep it right along here. Should the Chiefs shut Patrick Mahomes down for the regular season amid his high ankle sprain? Right. I got confused for a second. It's not mild, it's high. But Zach, I would like to begin here. And I think for me, I think the Chiefs should shut Patrick Mahomes down for the regular season. But I would like to say this before I get into my take. From what people told me or been telling me, the Chiefs can win anywhere. They can win on the road, right? That's what y'all told me. Clearly, they won on the road last year. From what people told me, the Chiefs were not taking the regular season seriously. That's why they had all these close games. That's what people told me, okay? So they shouldn't be worried about anything because they've been fighting around, according to y'all. That's why the game's been close. And look, the Chiefs normally do get the luck of a draw when it comes to officiating in the NFL in general. So I am a little bit shocked that the NFL would schedule them on a Saturday and then a short week traveling to Pittsburgh. So I am a little bit, I'm scratching my head about that, what they on to. They're trying to throw people off, the route that we are starting to go on, noticing the bigotry going on in the league, but maybe they're trying to throw us off a little bit by putting them in a bad spot because I'm clearly Roger Goodell, he cares about safety of the players, but clearly when it comes to money, he doesn't care about the safety of the players. That's another topic of conversation for another show. But look, I get it. Mahomes played on a high ankle sprain and won a championship a couple years ago. But his offensive line was not as bad as it is right now. On Sunday, the Browns was able to pressure Mahomes and hit him 12 times. And Mahomes, when you look at the next upcoming schedule, the 2 games that they have left, he's going to be going up against Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith over the next couple of weeks. So you do not want to put Mahomes out there and feed him to the wolves. So to answer this question outright with a short first lap, but still got more in the second lap, I'm going to say that they should shut him down for the rest of the year, for the rest of the regular season, that is.
Yeah, well, so I just wanted to set the scene a little bit. Right now, the Chiefs would be the number 1 seed in the AFC if the season ended today. They're currently sitting at 13-1. The Bills are really the only team that could realistically catch them, but they're 2 games back at 11-3. But Buffalo beat Kansas City in the regular season, so the Bills have the tiebreaker. So if they finish tied, the Bills would get the 1 seed. So basically, in conclusion, the Chiefs just need to go 2-1 over their last 3 games, and they will secure the 1 seed. But you brought up the schedule. It's pretty tough. Houston, I know that they've been kind of disappointing relative to expectations, but they're still by far and away the team to beat in the AFC South. They're going to win that division, and CJ Stroud could ball out on any given day. That's not an easy game. And then they go to Pittsburgh, a Steelers team that's been great this season, on the road on Christmas Day. That's not going to be an easy game. And then, by the way, they end the season at Denver, who's a playoff team, and Denver almost beat them in Arrowhead the first time. So none of those games are going to be easy, but Kansas City needs to go 2-1 down the stretch. The other thing I found interesting, Will, is I thought after that Browns game, there was no shot he would play against Houston, and I thought he probably would be out against Pittsburgh too, for that same logic that you brought up. They're a great pass rushing team. The Chiefs' offensive line isn't necessarily a strength right now, and if Mahomes gets seriously hurt, then you don't have a chance in the playoffs. But it's looking like he's going to play against Houston on Saturday. He did speak to the media during his availability today. You don't really see that unless the guy plans on playing. So Kansas City is really prioritizing that number 1 seed. And I can't blame them for that because, as you said, Mahomes has had this injury, similar injury before in the playoffs, and it worked out fine. Now, you're kind of playing with fire a little bit, given the state of the offensive line, given the state of who you're playing against. But I just think that Kansas City, they really want this 1 seed because although they beat Buffalo last year in Buffalo in the playoffs, I do think that this Bills team is better and they're better suited to beat Kansas City potentially. And Kansas City went to Buffalo a few weeks ago and they lost. And also the Bills schedule is kind of a joke. They have the Patriots twice and they have the Jets. So odds are Buffalo is going to be winning each of their next 3 games, and Kansas City is going to have to go 2-1 down the stretch to get that number 1 seed. I don't really have a great answer. It's a fine line. The thing is, I would say I would probably sit Mahomes for this Houston game because I do think Carson Wentz, say what you want about him, I do think he is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. He hasn't played a ton of football down the stretch over the course of the last few years. He played in one game last year. It was a meaningless game for the Rams against the 49ers. The 49ers did not have any of their starters in there. They had already secured the number 1 seed by then. Wentz played well in that game. He threw 2 touchdowns. But again, it was a preseason game against the 49ers backup. Now, that performance was good enough where it gave Kansas City the confidence to sign him as the backup. So I do think Carson Wentz could beat the Texans. That's what I'm saying. Could he beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh? Probably not. That isn't a favorable game. But then I think I would take my chances with Mahomes coming back in 2 weeks against Denver. So that's probably how I would play it. I would play Wentz the next 2 games, and if you lose one of them, you bring Mahomes back against Denver, playing for the 1 seed. But it's looking like Mahomes is going to play this week against Houston, which is definitely a risky proposition that I'm kind of surprised about.
Yeah, I don't understand why that is. I mean, Andy Reid clearly didn't learn his lesson when clearly, we know his style. Go out there and play if you can play. And clearly injuries started to mount with the injury to Marquise Brown because of that strategy. That's the old school way. Clearly, he's an old school guy, and he's going to make old school decisions. And look, I think that injury, even though it may seem like it's, very mild, it's not. It's going to affect his mobility. Mahomes, one of the best parts of the Chiefs offense, right? And arguably the best part of the Chiefs offense. And it's really hard to watch for me. Like, I just hate it. Is, Mahomes, he scrambles, he holds on to the ball to the very last second, and then a receiver may reroute and he finds him. It's that holding on the ball in the last second, just throwing it. It's very hard to watch because it's like you're choking somebody. You're choking him, and before he dies, you let go. That's literally the example I could bring. It's like you're choking somebody and then he's about to die and then you let him go. It's like, oh my God, throw the ball, but, successful. You can't be mad at success, right? But, that's a part of his game. That's the best part of the game when you talk about the Chiefs offense, and that's going to be hindered because of the injury. That's why you sit him out, because, it's not like these guys are top-notch receivers here. We're talking about here. Travis Kelce's in his own world, and I understand he turns it on in January and whatnot. I understand you got D-Hop. He's known for hands, nothing else, really. They don't have a lot of talent here. All they relying on is scheme, is schematically out-coaching their opposition on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively. But a big chunk of this success is Mahomes' ability to scramble. And clearly that's going to be hindered. That's why I would rest him, because the question is really, how valuable do they consider the number 1 seed to be? Even for a team that has championship DNA, that has won the last 2 championships, do you still prioritize it more than any other team that may not have that experience, that may want to benefit from the ability to play at home, like the Ravens, like the Bills, right? The Bills is more, legitimate because they're right there. That's their biggest test right there. The Bills will require home court more, but do the Chiefs need so, right? What's more important, the number 1 seed or making sure that your quarterback in Patrick Mahomes is close to 100% as possible? So I think they have to ask themselves that question, and whatever that question is, they need to go with it.
And do you feel a certain type of way about that question? Like, if you were them,
for me, based on the fact that we saw them go on the road last year, right? And go into Josh Allen's house and go into Lamar Jackson's house and defeat those guys. I think their number 1 priority is to make sure that Patrick Mahomes is 100% to go. Because like all the people been telling me, you don't count out the Chiefs. They've been telling me all these things, all these fluky things. Oh, they didn't take the regular season seriously. Well, if you haven't been taking the regular season seriously, that's why the games are close. According to you, Zach, you said that before as well. You said that you think that they're not taking it seriously. Well, don't take it seriously. Gear up for the playoffs. If that's what y'all doing right now, is gearing up for the playoffs. That's why the Broncos game is close. That's why the Chargers, despite no Lyle McConkey, the game is close. That's why the Buccaneers game is close with no wide receivers or nothing like that. They lost mad wide receivers, no Mike Evans, no Godwin, but yet they should have won that game. Is because we are not taking the regular season seriously. No, it's not that. It's the fact of the matter is this conversation is being overshadowed by issues that the Chiefs have still yet to figure out offensively. That's the real topic of conversation, not this fluky Mahomes injury. We know damn well he could play through it. We saw him play through it a couple years ago. The real question is how bad the Chiefs offense is, because it is first double digit victory in a while. And that's because Jameis Winston handed the game to them with the interceptions, throwing 3. He had an episode. It's Jameis. He going to give you the game. But the reality is their offense stinks. And that should be the headliner topic. But no, we're going to hide behind this, injury that we saw clearly Mahomes could win with.
I just think it's hard because literally this was the exact same thing we were saying last year. Like the Chiefs offense and their receivers led the league in drops last year, and they still found a way to turn it on in January and parlay that to a Super Bowl win. Like that Raiders game on Christmas last year is one that I just really can't leave my head. Like their offense did nothing. Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass in the fourth quarter, and the Raiders still won. And that was one of the worst losses of the Mahomes Reed era that I could remember. And they were still able to bounce back from that. I think the question I have, Will, is ideally you want to rest Mahomes and still get the 1 seed, right? That is the ideal scenario. You give Mahomes some time to rest and you still get that number 1 seed.
And I think they could do that. And I think they could do that. Listen, I know Carson Wentz, his career, his trajectory has not been, amusing. But to be honest with you, and this may come off as a shot at Mahomes. You can take it how you want. Listen, he's a top 3 quarterback in the league, top 2. I think Josh Allen has clearly taken the horns, to be the number 1 guy. He and Joe Burrow is right up there for number 2 and 3. But systematically, that's how they win games. I seen the one game that Mahomes missed a couple years ago in the regular season. I think it was against the Packers. I think they rolled out with Chad Henne or something like that. I may be wrong. And I think they won that game, or at least the game was close. They might have won that game. Systematically, it's plug and play. I bet you if Carson Wentz is starting not week 1, but next week as the QB1, they're gonna win that game. Especially who they playing?
Houston.
They playing the Texans. It's the Texans. They dangerous, right? But I still think it's not a guarantee they're gonna win a game. But I still think that the offense will still look how it's been looking, which is still inconsistent. It's not like it's been looking great anyway, even with Patrick Mahomes. So what are you really missing here? Let the guy get healthy. Your offense stinks. It's been stink the whole year. Okay. Clearly against the Raiders, against the Broncos, against the Buccaneers. Let's keep going on. The Chargers. Come on. It's not like this guy has been playing magical. Give him at least a week to rest. I think you should shut him down for the regular season, but at least don't start him on Saturday. You'll be an idiot, Andy Reid, to do that. I don't like the Chiefs. That's evident. But as a football guy talking sports and trying to be fair here and tell y'all which the right direction to go, sit this man down.
Yeah. And look, obviously Mahomes is going to want to play, and I'm not going to blame the Chiefs for prioritizing the 1 seed, because I will say this too. Look, obviously I'm still confident in this team and their ability to three-peat, but yeah, going on the road to Buffalo again and trying to win there in the playoffs for the second year in a row, that's no easy task. I do think that this Bills team is better suited now than it's been in years past to finally get over that hump. So yeah, from a Chiefs perspective, I do think ideally you want that game in Arrowhead. You want to get that first round bye. I also think that some of the teams at the bottom of the AFC playoff picture are better than they've been in years past. So that first game, the Bills should get through it, or whoever gets the 2 seed should get through it, but it's far from a guarantee. But at the end of the day, Mahomes' health is your number 1 priority. And the schedule is just tough, man. Like this Texan game is very important because if they lose, whether Mahomes plays or not, whoever is playing quarterback for the Chiefs in Pittsburgh on Christmas, like I'm just gonna be honest, I don't feel great about their chances to win that game. I think that's a bad matchup going against TJ Watt, going against Highsmith, considering how sketch and questionable their offensive tackle play has been this season. I think this Texan game is very important. And I do wonder if they win on Saturday with Mahomes, would they sit him for the Steeler game and then just ask Carson Wentz, just win one of these next 2 games? Again, I know they're both on the road, but in Pittsburgh or in Denver, like, could he do that? I just think I'm guessing that this Texan game is something they're really prioritizing and they want to win it. It's their last home game of the season. And then from there, you could rest Mahomes. Maybe that's their logic. Maybe that's their strategy. I'm not sure, but I don't blame them for prioritizing the 1 seed because look, I know this team proved they could win on the road, but the Bills are a really good team with a really good home field advantage. And ideally, you want that bye. You want that game in Kansas City. So I can't blame them for that. But I don't think there's necessarily a right answer. So I'm curious to see how they play it.
I mean, look, I'm fond of Buffalo myself, and this is my last take really on this. I'm fond of Buffalo. I think they should be the favorites to come out of the AFC, but it's the playoffs. The Chiefs could be the number 2 seed and Buffalo could be the number 1 seed, and somebody knocks off Buffalo. They haven't beat an elite quarterback in the playoffs in the Josh Allen, Sean McDermott era. So, they could definitely be surprised. And now the Chiefs will be new number 1 seed. So they got to make sure that throwing Mahomes out there, especially coming off that type of injury, is worth it.
Yeah, and this is just a big game because I will say if they do lose and they have to win probably at Pittsburgh and at Denver, I wouldn't feel great about their chances to get the 1 seed. But again, kind of like you hinted at earlier, it just really depends on how much do they value that 1 seed. And I think they should, but at the same time, they've won the last 2 Super Bowls. So they won on the road last year. So it really just depends on how much they're prioritizing that at the end of the day.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.